Hello and welcome to our session for today. Today we are going to look at revision for KNEC business law paper that was actually tested in November 2022. So this particular class is coming to you courtesy of RCM Online College, and we are going to look at a specific question for business law, which was actually tested in the year 2022. So the question, if you can be able to see it, the question is for a business law. The question is for business law, for diploma in supply chain, diploma in business management, diploma in cooperative management, diploma in investments, diploma in entrepreneurship, and diploma in human resource. So the question is for November 2022 paper. So the question goes like this. So we'll be able to look at this particular question number 2, question number 2A, which says, explain 5 defenses available to a person sued under the rule in Rylands versus Fletcher. So explain 5 defenses available to a person sued under the rule in Rylands versus Fletcher. So Rylands versus Fletcher is a case law that basically explains what we call a strict liability. Strict liability. So strict liability is actually one of the torts. So strict liability is one of the torts. It is explained by the rule in Rylands versus Fletcher, by the rule in Rylands versus Fletcher. So it explains the tort we call strict liability, strict liability, strict liability, strict liability. So under strict liability, there are certain defenses, or under this particular tort, there are those defenses that you can be able to use as a defendant in the court of law to defend yourself. So for example, you say in this case, strict liability arises if there are certain key elements that have basically happened. For example, there should be what we call an accumulation of a thing on your land, which ends up to having escape. Then it goes to your neighbor, destroying the property of the neighbor, or destroying anything that is actually owned by the neighbor. So those are the elements. So a thing that is actually accumulated, escaping, goes to the neighbor and actually destroys his or her properties. So if that is the case, or has actually happened to a defendant, he accumulated something on his land, which ended up having to escape and cause a damage on the neighbor's property, then what are the defenses that he can be able to, for example, plead before the court so that he can actually basically be left scot-free, or probably now in this case, maybe to get a fair judgment or actually ruling before the court. So the defenses that can basically be used include, for example, number 1, you can be able to argue this particular escape was a result of an act of God. An act of God. For example, there was actually heavy rain, downpour, that actually ended up making the thing in your land actually having to escape. Alternatively, you can also be able to say it was as a result of statutory authority that this particular tort actually ended up having to happen due to statutory authority. So this simply means that you've actually been authorized by any law of the land. So for example, accumulate something on your land. So you've already been authorized by a law in place. So you can use that as a defense. Alternatively, you can be able to say the escape actually resulted from an act of a stranger, an act of a stranger. So maybe a stranger happened to come on your property maybe at night. He ended up making the escape to happen. Number 4, you can be able to argue and say this escape was actually consented to, it was a result of consent by the plaintiff or the complainant before the court. So he actually consented or actually accepted to the escape actually having to happen. Then the last one, you can be able to say it was a result of what we call contributory negligence. So this particular escape was actually contributed to by the neighbor. Contributory negligence. Contributory negligence. So these are the kind of defenses that you can be able to use to be able to, for example, defend yourself in any case you've actually been accused of what we call strict liability, or for example, you've been accused under the rule we call Rylands versus Fletcher. Rylands versus Fletcher. So that is the answer for that particular question. So this particular revision has come to you courtesy of RCM Online College. We offer KNEC courses. We offer KNEC courses for different diploma courses for KNEC. And of course, in this case, if you want to be able to enroll for our classes, we basically charge 6,000 per module, and you can be able to reach out to us on our contact, which is actually 0719 525,000. Thank you very much. And that is the end of this particular session. That is the end of this particular session.